Hey and welcome back. Today we'll be looking at Boruto episode 256. Definitely a light one. And just to get started in this episode, we see Team 7 back in town, hanging out with some of their favorite people, I assume being Chocho and Inojin, obviously with the exception of Shikadai. And I mean, just the episode itself is kind of giving you the impression like, okay, things are kind of back to normal. They're getting acclimated back into the Leaf Society and catching up with their old friends. And the episode itself is really centered around Inojin and Chocho, as Boruto and Sarada kind of allude to them, that them kind of being stagnant or idle while Shikadai is doing his thing could actually affect Shikadai and his success as a leader or captain. With that said, the episode goes on with Shikadai actually giving them a mission to investigate this rogue ninja who the sensory team got an inkling that, would be up to something, that he'd be up to something. And upon investigating him, they find that that's not the case at all, but instead he's kind of turned in his life of crime and has been given a pardon, and instead has been interested in starting up his own ramen shop and getting customers to show up. So the episode in large part just follows their journey with kind of helping him do that. It's almost like a little bit, I guess, comical or comedic and super light in that way, whereas it's not so much about the battles or the suspense. I'd say probably the first few minutes of their mission kind of alluded to it, and then maybe down the line where Shikadai and obviously the other upperclassmen who he was with investigating the data thieves or criminals. There was a little bit there, but really nothing too serious. Like you kind of knew where the story was going as you watched it. But that said, this video is gonna be super short, just commenting on it. I liked it. I'm not one of those people to be like, oh, it's filler, I don't want to watch it, it's pathetic, all of that. Obviously, I don't know, I'm just one of those people who think like you should take things for what they are and rate it accordingly. Like, I'm not gonna rate this episode on a scale of like Game of Thrones or something, right? But for what it is, being a transitional episodic piece to help develop the side characters and get everyone back acclimated, giving the anime a softer turn before it goes into the next thing, I think was a pretty alright episode. I liked it. I liked the lighter feel of it. I liked being able to explore Inojin and Chocho's characters a bit more. And even getting the little inklings, like I didn't know that their performance was really a determinant of how successful Shikadai was, and how it's kind of important for all the members of the team to be productive whether or not they're working on team missions. I thought that was a pretty cool nugget. I also kind of liked being introduced to this new ramen shopkeeper, right? Like he seems to be like, it seems like he's gonna be the next Ichiraku, and I think that's kind of cool. I think it's a fun twist on things. It keeps the ramen tradition alive but gives it a new spin, and I think it does its job. With that said, the standouts for me was really the intro of the episode and the outro. Like, usually when they switch it up, it's usually one. Maybe you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it's always just one being updated at a time. So you'll like your intro updated, but then the same outro, or a new outro and the same intro. But we kind of got two in one fell swoop. And I thought that was a pretty nice treat to the episode. Like, hey, if you're sticking around for this, as one would say, quote unquote filler, like truly filler component, you get a good treat out of it. That was pretty nice, and if anything, I have probably like bigger thoughts on those versus the actual episode itself. With that said, the intro, I'm a sucker for good color, and I think both the intro and outro, and really not all, but the Boruto anime does a good job at exploring color and its visuals and its narratives. In terms of the intro, you really get this feel of camaraderie, which was present in the previous one as well, whereas you had Shikadai and Denki those showing up in this big fight as they all tried to save Himawari. And in that case was more battle centric. In this intro, it feels a lot more familial lighthearted, playful, and just focused on development and training as you see Boruto sparring with his friends and whatnot. I will say though, it was also a pretty nice treat to see the older generation, I guess, be featured in the intro as well, like in different snapshots and frames. We see Chojo at some point, Naruto at some point. I even liked seeing Boruto with a classic running scene. And I'd say anime intros and outros regardless, but particularly in the Naruto, how can I put it, franchise. Yeah, like that running scene that is just very simple but very powerful. You see him chasing after Naruto and just the striving. I think it's just really alluding to him just trying to, I guess, I don't want to say fill his shoes, but to really do right by him and to learn from him and grow and become strong with him as a role model. So I thought that was a pretty nice moment as well. But ultimately the intro just felt super communal. I love that about it. And not even just as in terms of the Leaf Village and their people, but it just felt like this collective peace. And I'll also say it also kind of made you feel like the characters grew a bit too. Like they aren't, if you think back to like one of the first few intros in the Boruto anime, they were really kids. They were kids who were bored of riding the train, like little things like that. And now I've seen them tonally, it's just aged up a bit. And I thought it was good, although they are grown. They have still that sense of camaraderie and community. And then in terms of the outro, you have Sarada. I mean, I don't know what really to make of it other than, well, one, I'm a huge Sarada fan. I really, really love her character, and I hope they do her justice. But having her have an entire outro dedicated to was really nice. It reminded me of, let's see, what's the name of that outro or that intro? I don't know, that moment when you had the Sarada Gaiden arc and like those outros and intros. Oh, chef's kiss. I love those. Visually, in terms of the narrative, it was just really, really good. Granted, this outro, I wouldn't dare to say that it's on the same tier or level as those intros and outros, but just this idea of it being so Sarada-centric, I'd like to believe that it's alluding to an arc that's centered around her in the future. So I'd really be looking forward to that. One, as a Sarada fan, and two, just want to see more of her and her development going forward. With that said, as I said before, this episode was super light. It had some nice treats in the opening and the ending. And then it was just nice to see Inojin and Chocho have a little development. I wouldn't even say it was developmental, but a little bit of the story dedicated to them and their characters. All in all, I guess that wraps up today's video. Thank you guys for tuning in as always. For everybody who is in the United States, I wish you all a happy and safe and healthy and amazing July 4th weekend. And ultimately, thank you guys once again for tuning in. And as always, we will chat again soon.